you will never optimize your business. And there are some of you out there that have a business and literally you could do half the revenue and keep 4 times the money if you understood accounting.
April 16th is coming around the corner.
Oh, it's tax season. And you know what the funny thing about tax season is, Carson? Everyone's like, hurry, what can I do to fix my tax? I'm like, hey, I don't want to call you an idiot or anything, but the time for trying to correct your taxes that are due on April 16th was 14 months earlier. Literally, when January 1 rolls around, what you do for the next 12 months is what's going to impact that. So there's some things that you can do to optimize, but really what people got to start doing is saying, wait a second. April 16th is me planning for next year's taxes, and I'm already 4 months into the 12 months. Dude, that's how you maximize the game.
Well, and in real estate, we run into people who have maximized their tax game.
Yep.
And then it doesn't look like they have any income, so they can't get lending.
I know.
It's a dance.
Yep.
So Kris, how do you feel about taxes? Are you the kind of guy that gets pissed this time of year to be like, the government's taking a chunk?
No. So for me, I get that there was a Boston Tea Party where we overthrew England over a 2% tax on tea. And we basically said, let's not start that bleep. But look at what it is today. Like, I'm in the maximum tax bracket. There's some things that I can do to certainly lessen my taxes. But I just got to start up by saying this. It is a privilege to pay the goose that lays the golden egg. And show me a country where you have the level of freedom and a support system of capitalism and entrepreneurship that says you can hustle and make 10 times or 100 times or 1,000 times the wealth. I think America is a breeding grounds. It's a wealth machine. And so, yes, the taxes are really heavy, and we're going to talk about the best ways to, and how I never paid taxes my first 7 years. But, just start by recognizing that it's a privilege to support local law enforcement and hospitals and road building. And that listen, if you're good at making money, then guess what? You are helping create the next better society, better conditions. And, for me, I just look at that and I say that's a privilege.
Kris, do you have any sort of philosophy on tax? I mean, I've heard people talk about like a flat tax is what a lot of entrepreneurs, recommend.
Yeah,
some people are like, get rid of it.
The Democrats at the end of the day just say the more you make, the more you should pay.
Yeah.
And you know what? I'll never be in favor of a socialistic society that favors entitlement. One that says, let's remove motivation. Let's remove the desire to build and create and improve and enhance and innovate. I'll never be in favor of that. I'll always be in favor of a government that says, let us support the builders. Years ago, Carson, I read this book, Atlas Shrugged.
Yeah.
And by Ayn Rand. And if anyone, she was a Russian economist in the early, 20th century. And the book is a fiction that basically depicts a dystopian America, a world where the government has brought just financial carnage and ruin to the producers. If you're the maker of something, if you're the builder of something, if you're improving, the government just wants to literally sit on you and zap your resources and take it all from you. And what was interesting in this book, spoiler alert if you haven't read it or watched the movies, but basically what happens is all the super producers start disappearing, kind of like some second coming rapture. And you find out later that they all literally leave to a special mountain hideaway where they continue inventing for each other's society. And they basically said, there's no way I'm going to burn down all of my empire and wealth in the real world. They don't get it. We'll see how they like it. Like, it has definitely some of that crotchety energy of like, I'm going to stick it. You've been sticking it to me. I'm going to stick it to you. You don't get my inventions. I'm taking them from you. And then they form a private society where they get to enjoy them. And I think the book is actually a super powerful, very, very relevant notion for the world that we live in today, where we are so good at taxing the crap out of the people that make the money. And listen, for the record, I like paying my fair share, but also I'm intelligent. I'm going to use every possible write-off known and available to me to produce what I call the clean dollar.
How do you feel about capital gains tax?
Dude, capital gains, man. Like, you have capital, you invested it, you produced a gain, you're going to pay taxes on your growth. That's all that really means. But I want to go back, Carson, this idea of a clean dollar. Do you know what a clean dollar is?
No.
It was taught to me by my chief financial officer. And I remember when he said, Kris, we got to focus on clean dollars. And I said, well, what's that? He says, well, Kris, do you see how we're now preparing for the end of the year and we can see how much money you're going to have to pay in taxes? I said, yeah. He says, and you know how you haven't put a whole lot of money in that account and you have to rob some of your savings and investments to pay for your taxes? I said, yeah, I know, I hate it. He says, what would it be like if I taught you how to calculate clean dollars? I said, what's that? He said, it's where your business produces revenue or your real estate produces revenue. And then what you do is you develop a system for making sure that you pay all the people you need to pay, including the government, well in advance, and it's all set aside. And then when you put money in your savings account, it's clean. Literally, I have an account at one of my banks called Clean Money. And I don't want to draw any reference to like money laundering or anything like that. What I literally mean though
Surely nobody was thinking that
right?
already.
But I mean that my money is mine and no one's entitled. And by the way, for me to have a clean dollar, I've also already taken out 10% for tithing. It's my church stuff. And then I've taken more money out on top of that for my foundation that I give other people. So literally when a dollar hits that account, it is clean and it is not owed to another human being. And these days I only get excited about clean money, not because it's really possible to generate a ton of revenue in a company and have nothing to show at the end of the day. Dude, I remember I got to this point where my company was growing. We had a breakout month and we doubled our revenue. And we went even deeper into debt. And I said, how the crap do you make more money and keep losing more? And it's because I was a novice to business. I didn't understand accounting. By the way, side note, if you are in business for yourself, you have to master the language of business. It is accounting. And no, you don't trust your accountant. It's not that they're not trustworthy. It's that you have to learn to convert numbers on your financials into words so that you can make management decisions. And then you should be able to have conversations with your managers about words and convert them into accounting back into numbers. If you can't translate accounting, you will never optimize your business. And there are some of you out there that have a business and literally you could do half the revenue and keep 4 times the money if you understood accounting.
So real estate obviously has a ton of tax benefits.
Yeah.
How do we leverage those?
Dude, I did not pay taxes my first 7 years of investing in real estate. And at first, like my first year, I made very little money. I was like,
Can you clarify that statement? You legally didn't pay taxes.
Yeah,
it wasn't like you were avoiding.
No, I had nothing to pay. I didn't owe anything because I accidentally tapped into the number one tax benefit. Like for example, if you own a business, by the way, everyone listening, you need to own a business. Why? Because there are 250 tax benefits, and it is worth your time to educate and learn what they are. Because I've got this immaculate tracking system for every dollar that moves through my world so that I can calculate a true clean dollar. Because guess what? Dude, I took my clients out to a fantastic meal. I spent like $400. That's a tax write-off, especially actually normally half of that is because it's not pleasure. Right now for the next 3 years with Biden, like it's a 100% tax write-off if it's for business. So you should get educated, you should own a business, but outside of business, even real estate trumps business by way of tax benefits. I didn't mean Donald Trump. I mean that it is better than all of the tax benefits that can come through business. And I'll explain why. When you buy and own real estate long-term, you have something called depreciation. And depreciation basically means it's the government's way of saying, hey, you bought something, you're using it for business purposes, and that thing will eventually run out. It'll lose value. Like for example, if you buy a computer and the government says, oh, you have to write that off over, 5 years? Or do you remember, was it 7 years or 3? I can't remember. It's like, let's just assume it's 5 years. That means that the government is basically, the IRS has said, we think your computer is going to be good for 5 years and then you're probably going to want to replace it. So you spend $2,000 on a computer, divide that by 5, that's $400 a year that you get to write off. What does that mean? It means that if I earned $50,000 this year, but needed a computer for my business that I paid $2,000 for, then instead of on paper making it look like I made $50,000, I get to subtract $400 this year from that amount, which means that I'll be paying less in taxes. If I was in a 15% tax bracket, then 15% of $400 is what I would be saving, which is $60. So I'll basically get to save $60 this year, next year, and for basically 5 years on writing that off. Well, that's a small write-off, and that's what depreciation is. A computer I get to write off over. What about real estate? Government says that you can write off a home over 27 and a half years. They're like, carpet needs to get replaced, the paint needs to get replaced, this or that, blah, blah, blah. Here's just our ruling. It's 27 and a half years. Well, man, if you buy a $250,000 home, and by the way, you should learn how to do this math, take a $250,000 number in your calculator and divide it by 27.5. It's going to give you a number somewhere around $9,000, a little over that. That means that you get to write $9,000 off the money that you make, well, guess what? That house was rented out and let's say I had a $4,000 a month positive cash flow. That $4,000, I'm not going to pay a penny in taxes on it. Do you know why? Because I have $9,000 in tax write-offs from my depreciation. I get to write off the $4,000. All my cash flow is now tax-free. And by the way, on single family homes, the way I buy it, it's always tax-free. And then I have $5,000 left over. Where does that go? That goes against my personal income. So let's just say for a moment, theoretically, let's just say that I bought 10 homes and I was depreciating $9,000 per home. And let's just say that my $4,000 a month is all positive cash flow. So there's 10 of those. I have $40,000 of new income that I owe tax-free. But then I have $5,000 left over on each of those 10 homes. Well, what's 10 of those? 5,000 write-off times 10 homes is 50,000. Got news for you, Carson. I got into real estate and I bought 10 homes and I went from a $50,000 income at my job. And now my real estate gave me $40,000 of tax-free cash flow. And then I got $50,000 of write-off. Well, guess what that does? That makes your $50,000 a year income go to zero because $50,000 in depreciation. So this is weird. I've almost doubled my income, but now I'm paying taxes on none of it. Hello? Is anyone there? Like, hello? Like, you should be thinking, how do I buy as much real estate as freaking possible? And that's what I did for the first 7 years until I just got too dang good at making money. And then I couldn't buy enough real estate to keep up with it.
Chris, is this something the average accountant will do just automatically?
Nope. That
Really?
was a positive sound, but that was supposed to be a no. No. I mean, listen, basic accountants understand this kind of thing. But honestly, if you get into real estate or you have a business, your H&R Block or your basic accountant, your bookkeeper, they shouldn't be doing your books. You should pay a little extra money and have an expert that does taxes for business on a regular basis and can show you a history of that. And eventually, man, you want to get your business to the point where you have what's called a fractional CFO. Real CFO costs $300,000-$400,000 a year. But you don't, until you have a company that's doing $20, $25, $30 million a year, you don't need that level of employee. But you can get part of one. It's called a fractional CFO. When I started, I had a fractional CFO. Now I think I've got 5 full-time fractional CFOs. Some of them are full-time. And the reason why is because they are expert at taking your accounting and turning numbers into words that you can make decisions from and taking words and turning them back into numbers. And if you're a good student, you should learn in the first 2 years exactly what they're doing, how they're doing it, why they're doing it. Don't just trust that they can do it, learn from them. Now, when I meet with my CFO, it's educational. Sometimes he sees things that I don't, but often, guess what happens? Dude, I freaking have a CFO's mindset when I look at my business because remember, I'm not trying to get the most revenue. I'm trying to produce the most clean dollars. Those are two completely different goals.
Kris, we have often had people come and partner with you who are self-employed or 1099 contractors, run their own business, but their mindset toward taxes is very different than what we would recommend to have their mindset for investing.
Well, let's talk about what do you think that mindset is, Carson?
Well, they're trying to write off and show as a loss on the business.
Yeah.
And then when they go to get lending, the bank is like, well, you had a loss. You've got, you're telling me you have income, but your taxes are telling me a different story.
Yeah. Let's start with this. I want to share 2 of the idiotic things I have over some people's point of views regarding taxes. The first point of view that I really disagree with is, I should buy something because it's a tax write-off. I didn't need this SUV, but because it's 6,000 pounds, I'm going to buy it so that I can save some money in taxes. I'm like, you understand that what you're saving is a small amount compared to what you, here's my $100,000 SUV. Yay for you. You got to save $20,000 in taxes. What about the other $80,000 that you spent on something you didn't need? So some people just really don't get the game. If the goal is to maximize clean dollars, buying more crap goes against that goal. Don't buy more crap. Buy things that you need for business. That's the first thing. But the second one, Carson, is let's just talk about negativity.
Yeah.
You got negativity. You got skeptics, cynics, realists, and optimists. And I'm just going to tell you right now that when it comes to, being successful in life, there's so much value to gain from being an optimist. But when it comes to the numbers of running a business, I do not want to be an optimist. I want to be an optimist in every area of my life, my relationships, hope-filled, how things go down with my kids, like my body, the way I treat it when I go to the gym and all that good stuff. But when it comes to my business, it is a game of numbers, and I want to operate in reality, not an embellished version of that, which is what an optimist tends to do, is they don't see clearly because they're too busy living in a world where numbers are inflated and more positive than they actually are going to be. I'm a freaking realist. But notice I didn't say cynic. Notice that I didn't say that I had some kind of negative skeptic mindset.
Crotchety.
Dude, crotchety people, right? Number one, let's not forget the real goal. The real goal is even bigger than creating clean dollars or producing profit. What is the real goal in life? It's to love your life. And by the way, there's a ton of rich dudettes that don't like their life. I'm just going to tell you that right now. Money does not buy happiness. I think it contributes to possibility in the biggest of ways, but even possibility doesn't buy happiness. Choice buys happiness. Emotional intelligence. I feel like the most, if it was, hey, I want to download my multi-million-dollar mindset in your brain right now, or I'm going to deposit a mindset and a belief system that allows you to be happy. Dude, I would take the happy any day of the week over the money. And don't get me wrong, it's called the Have It All Show. So I clearly want both. But I think a lot of people are confused. So for me, if taxes, just even the sound of it, turns your stomach, makes you feel negative or nasty or upset or frustrated about something, I'm just going to tell you right now, you're doing life wrong. Dude, are you kidding me? You want to focus on your quote unquote problems in business? Dude, don't be in business then. It's not worth it. My wife and I years ago, we were in, what was that? We were on Rotom. We were doing a dive trip. We just got licensed. We were doing a night dive. We went during a certain time of the year when the moon was out to see the bioluminescence because we had seen the movie Avatar. And we're like, everything will turn, green and purple and blue at night, right? It wasn't that nearly that extreme. But anyway, we're doing this really fun dive trip. It was funny because I didn't realize that there was an adjustment on my vest that would allow a certain amount of air to go in. And I had caused myself to believe in my digital class that if I pushed that button, I would die. And I was hating every dive because I was sucking out all my oxygen because I kept sinking. And finally, the dive master on the last dive of the whole week comes up to me and I'm sinking and he's reaching for the button on my vest underwater. And I start panicking. Bubbles are blowing out of my vest. I'm going to die. And he swatted my hands away and he hit it again and again. And then I just floated perfectly.
An equilibrium.
And all of a sudden
water.
My breathing slowed down. And it was one of those oh crap moments I've been doing this whole trip wrong. And that's what taxes are like for people that get a bad attitude about them. They miss the journey. They miss what really matters. That's not why I brought this up. I brought this up because, why was it? I was in
business owners. How should they write off their taxes?
Yeah, I actually can't even remember why I was talking about that trip, but you got a fun story out of it.
The negativity.
Yeah, it was about the negativity. Dude, life is way too short to get caught up in just negative attitudes that don't serve you and aren't good for you, because the purpose of life for me at the end of the day, I just want to be happy. I literally measure my life at the end of the day. When I put my head to the pillow, I said, what fulfilled me? It was a portion of happiness. It was a portion of how I feel when I invest and spend time with my kids. Part of that is going to, my business and killing it, crushing it. It feels so good to achieve. But even achievement without fulfillment is a life not worthy. It's not the life that you should be living. If you really like chasing results and accomplishments and bigger, just know that if that's not making you happy, there's no size of accomplishment that will ever fill the void. I once heard it to me put this way: you can never get enough of what you don't need, because what you don't need can't satisfy you. So this whole conversation on taxes, I just say, hey, for me, what did I start with? It's a privilege. I'll always pay my fair share of taxes. I'm a builder in this community. I'm here to make this place better. And by the way, if I'm better at making money than someone else, then I get to be a bigger contributor percentage-wise. Great, awesome. And I'm also going to make sure that I get my maximum tax benefits, and I'm smart about how I move money. I've surrounded myself with the smartest people. I don't think there's another tax break that I could possibly get that could make my taxable situation lower than it currently is. And so now I'm being fiscally responsible. But I'll share one last thing. Here's the third kind of people that I can't stand when it comes to this. They're like, oh no, don't make more money. It'll put you into a higher tax bracket. I'm like, oh my gosh, that is as dumb as the person who buys a truck because they can write off and save a little bit of money. I'm like, if you didn't need the truck, you're just throwing money down the, it's like, well, Kris, I'm at a 20% tax bracket. If I get good at making money and I'm in a 40% tax bracket, 40%, if I double my tax, I'm like, Well, listen, as long as you're in a smart business where you've got good margins, you realize that you do get to keep more money. Here's where it gets painful. This is the truth. The people who have the most butt hurt on this are people that have low margin businesses. I mean, A, go buy a ton of real estate, but 2, you need to fix your business. Tony Robbins, he always said it this way. He said, what business are you in? And then he would say, what business should you be in? And that's when I paused and realized at one point in my life, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm working my butt off to get this 10% lousy margin. But what if I was doing a different business model and had a 50% margin? Same effort, 5 times the reward? Dude, guess what? I'm now gonna earn some freaking, I'm gonna stock my clean tax account up with real money that I get to keep that Uncle Sam isn't gonna take the last penny of. So listen, if you feel like you're paying too much in taxes, one, you probably don't own enough real estate. But the second thing I would say is you may not have structured your business the right way, because if you're keeping a dime for every dollar of revenue that comes in, there's a really good chance that you are gonna feel like you're being spanked by the taxi man. And if I get spanked in life, I don't want it to be by the tax man.
This is
just
great.
for clarity. I'd like for my wife to spank me.
Oh my gosh, Kris.
Not the IRS.
Alicia, edit that out. Kris, so in closing here, last question.
Yeah.
There's another type of individual who has a W-2, they work a job, all year long.
Yeah.
Their company is taking money out because they clearly can't plan for savings themselves.
Yes.
And at the end of the year, they have a tax return.
Yeah.
Where they paid more in taxes than they needed to all year round, and they get money back. And it feels like, it's funny because it feels like this is like bonus money, but it was yours in the first place. You earned it and you just put it into
the very first year, my wife
account.
and I, the first year my wife and I had my job, I put, I think, $3,000 in taxes with just me and my wife as 2 dependents on less than $20,000. And when we got that check, you know what we did? We went to Mexico. I told my wife, I said, we're going to do, my parents always fought that they never traveled anywhere. My mom was like, you never take me anywhere. I'm like, that won't be me. We're going to travel. And we had like just the most fun trip. But a little bit later, I remember just thinking to myself, was that the smartest thing that I ever did? The reality is I went 5 years of my life pushing off every luxury opportunity, nice cars, nice house, all the upgrades that I started being able to afford, because I started realizing if I could move the snowball forward, life got better. So check this out. I'm going to give you a challenge. Make a plan where you don't pay taxes next year. And if it can't be next year, then in the next 5 years. And you're like, well, Kris, come on. How do you do that? Well, what I would do if I had my tax money coming that I had overpaid to the government, they got to earn interest on it and do crazy whatever and then finally give it back to me. You know what I'm going to do with my money? I'm going to invest it. You got to understand that most people live check to check, and it's not just W-2 people. You know, there's people all over the world. It's called Parkinson's law, and basically it means that you spend plus or minus 10% of what you make. And I want to be really clear for my listener, because if you haven't heard this from me, I want you to get it, and I want you to write it down, and I want you to commit to it. Whatever your annual expenses are, you know that number right now, just guess, you know that number, add $50,000 to it. And that is your true expense. In other words, if you spend 50 grand a year or 100 grand a year, I want you to add 50,000 on top of that, because that's the 50,000 you're supposed to be making so that you can invest. There is no financial future in just a W-2. You have to have your own financial plan. I got to sit on a couch this morning with 4 members of my team that have been out there buying real estate and making all this money, because I'm like, hey, I love you, but I also love you so much, I'm not going to give you a freaking 401k. I'm going to give you access to $100,000 of Kris Krohn mentorship training and programs. Let's go freaking help you go out there and kill it in the game of real estate. You go build your wealth. That's not my job. My job is to pay you money for the value that you create. And now I'm going to show you how to invest and be intelligent about that. If you've got government money coming back to you, do not go to Cancun. Like, I get it. The memories are what matters. I said, live a fulfilling life, but also you have to balance that against a financially intelligent life, which means you got to get ahead. You got to make sure your money is going to work for you. So that's what I started doing, Carson. There's a couple of things specifically you can do. If you check out kriskrohn.com, you can check out 7-Figure Hustle. I'll show you literally how to start a stupid business for 1 or 2 hours a day on the side that could literally supplement or replace your job, could even lead to financial freedom like it has for some. You could look into my real estate training programs where I'll mentor you and take you by the hand and show you how to invest intelligently in real estate. And while 20% down real estate usually requires $40,000, $50,000 minimally to get in the game, I was just talking to 2 people today, 2 of my students. that collectively between the two of them have done over 20 deals in the last year that didn't take a single penny out of pocket. So there's so many options. You should make that money work for you because you got to do something to break the habit, right? You got to do something to be smart, intelligent with your money, which means you got to start focusing on the ROI that you can get by putting it to work for you instead of just, I'm going to save it, 401k at IRA, at house pay or offer it. I'm like, dude, fast forward 40 years, you're screwed. Don't do that. Like that can't be your plan. It's insufficient by 85% on average. You need a plan that is minimally 6.5 times more powerful. And you got to do that by becoming a serious investor.
So the goal should be to break even on your taxes.
Yeah, in the beginning it was for me. Now when I try to hit that goal, it's like, buy hundreds of homes this year and I still can't break even. I'm like, well, that's because I'm good at making money. And you know what? I'm going to feel good about the money that's going to build my towns and cities. And also going to government programs. Some I agree with, some I don't. But the reality is I'm a contributor. Get good at making money so you can become a contributor. Erase your own carbon footprint. Make enough money that you can fulfill the dreams of philanthropy and giving like you have in your heart. So everyone listen to my channel here, I know you. I know I've tested enough to know who you are. You're good people. You've got a good heart. Get good at the game of money. I hope today's episode helps you get a different mindset on the tax game and also how you can play it more intelligently. Get a business. I'll show you how to do that. Or get into real estate so that you can start with your life.
Awesome. In closing, I just wanted to share, hit up kriskrohn.com/podcast free book. For many of you out there, maybe you don't have $5,000 to get started. Maybe you don't have $1,000 to get started. Maybe you've only got like $10 to start your real estate journey. Everybody starts somewhere.
Get that book.
Get that free book.
But it comes with a free consultation. So if you also have $10 million, let's freaking go out into the market and let me show you how to get 35% annual returns on your money, fully turnkey and done for you. There's something for everyone if you're liking my message and it aligns with who you are.
kriskrohn.com/podcast free book. It's a map. It's a place to start and to help you understand where you're trying to get. And that's all for us today on the Have It All Show.
Guys, live your best life. Start it today. Live a life that is happy. Live a life that is fulfilling, not just achieving or results oriented or trying to get more. At the end of the day, make choices that make you feel right, that make you feel good. Those are the best ones.